and welcome to this early morning yoga class. I am going to do something different today because I think you're ready for it in your experience of me as a teacher, those of you who've been coming regularly, and because I think this focus is very important for the body. So, as most of you know, I also teach Pilates, and I came to Pilates after years of yoga because of chronic pain I was still having in my spine with four-curve structural scoliosis. And the Pilates actually brought me out of the chronic pain for the first time since high school in my 40s. And what I realized is I am a super flexible person who grew up doing gymnastics. I was used to being able to move in my body with lots of space in my joints and didn't really know very well how to integrate back into my core. Pilates taught me that. And I grew 3/4 of an inch. Um, and I attribute a lot of that to Pilates length and strength in the spine. So I'm going to read a little section to you today from Rael Isasawis's book because Pilates has principles that Pilates asks us to follow. And Pilates was a contemporary of Mr. Iyengar. And I believe that he was studying Iyengar and yoga to some extent to come up with the principles that he teaches, that he wrote down as important in movement. So the first three movement principles that I've gone over in my Pilates classes these last couple of months are to become aware. And I want you to think of this as I go through it, how much there is in common between this and the yoga that we practice. So the first principle is to become aware, which I think happens in part when we practice pratyahara and we turn inward. The second principle is to achieve balance. And by balance, Pilates doesn't just mean the ability to stand and balance, but to achieve harmony in the body as we move. The third principle was the breath. How do we breathe? Pilates said correctly, and I don't really like that word, but I like the idea of breathing fully and three-dimensionally, like we learn in yoga. And then the fourth principle that I want us to focus on today is to concentrate deeply. Now, if you've been in some of my Pilates classes, you've probably already heard this. But here's the paragraph I want you to listen to. I view concentration as the bridge between awareness and movement. As you establish the starting position for each movement, or asana, I encourage you to go through a list of important data. Which muscles are you needing to recruit? How should you align your body? And what is your chosen breath pattern? Simply by concentrating on a particular muscle prior to the action, you can activate it more accurately and intensely than if you do not think about it. Concentrating, which is one of the 8 limbs of yoga, dhyana, on your body alignment will help you recruit the correct muscles and avoid unnecessary strain on the body. Concentrating on the breath pattern will help you maintain a good rhythm for the movement and keep your mind focused. However, keep in mind that concentration can be so intense that it becomes counterproductive. And this is what I really want people to hear in yoga, because I think people get so concentrated on the asanas, they can often get stiff and cut off their energy. It's why I teach a lot of Qigong movement now in my yoga classes to help people get that flow back. It can morph into tension, concentration, which leads to a tightening of the musculature, a restriction in breathing, and a halting rather than flowing of movement. This is clearly not the intention and should be avoided. Okay, so I want us to focus today on dharana, concentration, while we're using these other principles of turning inward to be aware, of finding balance and harmony in the body, and of focusing on a three-dimensional breath, which will help us find that three-dimensional harmony and will help us make sure that our concentration isn't becoming restrictive. Okay. All right. Let's begin with the breath. Please find a comfortable seat. And in this ability to turn inward and become aware, first focus on your sit bones and how they sit on your cushion, block, or chair. Feel in from side to side and notice if one sit bone is tucked farther in towards the midline. And if so, inner spiral that thigh and gently pull that sit bone out and back at a diagonal. And you can switch from side to side until you get a balance between the two sit bones. And then lean forward and feel how your pubic bone comes closer to the floor. And lean back and feel how your tailbone comes closer to the floor. And rock your body, feeling that difference, tailbone to pubic bone, and find the balance, tailbone to pubic bone across front and back of the pelvic floor. Now you're sitting with awareness of the diamond of the pelvic floor. Let your pelvis and legs root you to earth. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the hug of gravity on your physical form. It's a hug that we have every day. We're held by earth. And now invite your awareness to turn in with the breath and follow the breath through the nasal passages, down the throat, into the lungs, and into the movement of the diaphragm, ballooning gently into the abdomen. The diaphragm is an amazing muscle that should be the main muscle of our breath. If you follow the fascial lines of the diaphragm up from beneath it, fascially it's completely interconnected with the psoas to the pelvic floor. And it looks a little bit like a cobra rising up with its hood open, the hood being the diaphragm. Breathe. And as you exhale, think of the hood of the cobra opening up underneath your lungs and lifting to help you expel the air. On the inhale, feel the diaphragm release and balloon gently down into the abdomen. That's what displaces the contents of the abdomen and makes your belly rise a bit. Most of us can feel the diaphragm most easily in the front of the body. But remember, the diaphragm is like a drum skin that connects around the whole circle of your lowest ribs. See if you can feel the diaphragm balloon down into the abdomen, into the low back on the inhale, and up under the back of the lungs on the exhale. I'm asking you to concentrate right now on the Annamaya Kosha, the physical body. Feel for the movement of the diaphragm. You may feel the whole circumference of your lowest rib ring gently expand on a three-dimensional inhale and relax on a three-dimensional exhale. We aren't trying for the biggest, fullest breath we can bring in. We're instead inviting a deep three-dimensional breath that fills the circumference of the torso without straining us, without causing rigidity. So notice if your concentration becomes an over effort that brings in stiffness, tightness in the body. And if it does, give yourself a little emotional pat on the back. It's okay. We have our breathing patterns for a reason. And try to soften your body on your exhales so that when you invite the next inhale in, it can feel you three-dimensionally. Relaxing on your exhale. Inviting a three-dimensional breath on the inhale. On the exhale, think of the bottom of the diaphragm ballooning up like that hood of the cobra rising to help you expel the air from the lungs. Then soften and let the cobra relax and fill the back tissue of the lungs with breath, with prana. Invite the life force into your tissues. To harmonize or balance our core, we need a three-dimensional breath. This way we can strengthen around the whole circumference of the spine. If we just breathe into the front chest, we're not using nearly all our lung capacity. We're mostly using our chest and neck breathing accessory muscles. When the diaphragm doesn't move, it doesn't send ripples of movement through our organs, our intestines, and the glands and lymph nodes in the abdomen. We invite the diaphragm to move because not only does it help us expand and relax, it helps us move fluids through our tissues. Forty 40% of the water in our bodies is lymph. When we breathe and the breath ripples through the abdomen, it ripples through the lymph vessels, moving the lymph to the lymph nodes where it gets cleansed. The job of this lymph is to clean up the body, to take out bacteria and viruses and even cancer cells. So we find balance in the breath. We move the lymph in a balanced way through the tissues. We balance the breath and invite prana into the back of the lungs and life force to circulate through the body more efficiently. We learn to relax on the exhale and invite in a three-dimensional inhale, not letting the concentration become tight and rigid and stiff. Our gaze is inward, pratyahara. We are breathing and concentrating on harmony of the breath, pranayama. And we are focused today on concentration, dharana. You might find this brings you to a meditative state, dhyana. Which brings us towards our capacity for samadhi, union, expanded consciousness. If we remember that yoga means to yoke together, to unify, we invite ourselves to use whatever tools it takes to build healthy concentration and awareness. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. May our gaze turn inward today, and may our concentration serve our health, wellness, and vitality, so we in turn can serve our communities. Namaste. Okay, let's begin lying down today. So, in honor of the Pilates work we're doing today, I'm going to have us lie down. Please have a yoga block handy and a pillow blanket, folded blanket for your head if, when you lie down, your chin rises a little higher than your hairline. It can be a nice support for the core work to have a pillow just under your head. The pillow should just bring your gaze perpendicular to the floor. It should not turn your gaze towards your knees. And it should be firm and only under the head, not under the neck. It should help you maintain your cervical curve and lengthen the back of your neck so that your head can rest in a position that's healthy for your posture and help you to release your suboccipital muscles. Nod your head no. And just let the head and neck relax a little bit here. And then come to neutral and gently press your head back into the blanket. As you do, you can even feel into the muscles at the back of your neck. They should be lengthening a little bit. You may feel some strength. Feel into the muscles of the side and front neck. You're inviting the neck to lengthen and find balance. Now nod the head yes. Feel your chin move towards your sternum. Your nose move towards your mouth, even though your mouth keeps moving away. And come to the position where your gaze is perpendicular to the floor. This is the optimal head alignment we would like. Now press into your left foot, lift your left hip just an inch off the floor. Press into the right foot, lift the right hip, and rock your pelvis side to side, reaching your knees out over your toes, so you're not coming into a twist with the knees. This is called somatic walking. And as we do the somatic walking, we gently release the lumbar spine from any tightness or stiffness during sleep. Let your shoulders open broad on your mat, your palms facing skyward. And see how deeply you can relax your jaw, your tongue, your eyes, the muscles of your face and neck. Relax the muscles of the neck and shoulder girdle. When we begin to strengthen the abdominal core for our yoga poses, we want to use the core muscles from the low rib ring down to about 1/3 way down the thighs. Come back to balance side to side with your pelvis and take a deep inhale. Exhale, float one leg up so your shin is parallel with the floor, and inhale, float it back down. And exhale, float the next leg up, and inhale, float it down. Can you float the leg up on the exhale and down on the inhale, switching from side to side without curling your shoulders forward or jutting your chin skyward? Can the hands and arms relax heavy? Can the head relax back? Now see if you can maintain this relaxation and heaviness in the upper body. And exhale, float one leg up to what I'm going to call tabletop, shin parallel to the floor. And then exhale, float the other leg up to join. Stay broad across the shoulders. And now keeping your knee at a right angle, open from the hip. And inhale, tip one toe towards the floor. Don't come all the way down, just maybe 2/3 of the way down. As you inhale one foot, toe dipping, and exhale the leg back up to perpendicular with the floor, inhaling the next leg down. Concentrate on keeping the shoulders broad, the palms and face relaxed. You may feel a little activation in the neck, which is normal, because the myofascial chains run from the muscles of your pelvic floor up into the head. So that fascia is going to put a gentle pull on the neck, on the head, but we don't want to overactivate. We want to keep the cervical spine of the neck in a neutral curve. And you may begin to feel, ah, yes, there is my abdominal core. Now float one foot back to the floor and then the other. Take a deep three-dimensional inhale. Relax on your exhale. Sink into the floor. Feel for your natural lumbar curve. Now, reach your tailbone into the earth and over-accentuate your lower back curve. And then exhale, tailbone towards the sky and flatten your low back lumbar curve. Inhale, tailbone towards earth. Exhale, tailbone towards sky. And feel into the muscles of your abdomen and inner thighs and buttocks that are helping you to rock the pelvis, tailbone to top of sacrum. We want to get to know these muscles and build awareness through our concentration. So we rock the pelvis, not just to open the muscles of the low back, but to get to know ourselves. Ah, good morning, muscles. Thank you for all the work you do to hold me together. Come back to your neutral lumbar curve. It should be like a mouse tunnel. But some of us have flatter spines, and if you have a flatter spine, feel your low back vertebrae on the floor in neutral. Bring a folded blanket underneath your sacrum. Shoulders broad. Exhale one leg up to your tabletop and the other up to follow again. And bring your hands to your femur bones, fingers pointed skyward. Press your hands into your femurs as you pull your femurs towards your chest in an isometric. This is actually a physical therapy exercise I'm adding in. Press your hands into the femurs, draw your femurs towards your chest, and only work at about 40% of effort. Draw energy in towards the navel and up the length of the spine, and feel how you're contracting muscles along the front of your spine so your ribs don't flare skyward. Keep your neutral curve. This is a very safe isometric for those with low back issues. You can work anywhere from 1% of effort, let's say up to 60% of effort today. We want to be able to sustain the push of the hands and pull of the femurs so we don't work too hard, so we can sustain the strengthening. And then draw your knees in towards your chest, circle your knees apart from each other and back together again, and let the femur bones stir in the hip sockets and relax the muscles of your abdomen. In between the work, we take a rest so that we learn how to turn muscles on and off, and they don't stay on when we're not needing them. Many of us keep muscles in our abdomens active because we're tense or nervous. See if you can relax the belly while you circle the knees. And then take the circles the other way. Right now, we're stirring the femur bone in the hip socket, getting the synovial fluid flowing. Relaxing the abdomen. Pulsing lymph through the lymph nodes in the groins. Now gently hug the right knee in and put your left hand on the knee. Right hand reaches towards the ankle and reach the left leg either up towards the sky or out at a 45-degree angle. Don't come lower than the 45-degree or you begin using muscles in the low back. And then switch legs, hug in the other leg and straighten the opposite and switch and switch and switch and switch. While you're doing this work with the legs, feel into what muscles are working in my abdomen. And even though the pelvis is shifting some as you draw one leg in, feel for also keeping your pelvis somewhat steady with a lumbar curve. Now it may flatten as you draw the knee in, but keep this idea of the lumbar curve not pressing too hard into the floor. Nod your nose towards your mouth. Lengthen out through the top of the head. And imagine that you could pick your head up from the hairline and pick it up just at 10% of effort. What I want you to do is feel the front neck flexors turn on. These front neck flexors are a part of your core system, and for many of us, they're weak. Hug both knees in. Reach your hands and feet for the sky. Press your heels together. Zip up the inner leg and hug in your buttocks to hug the midline. And reach your wrists away from your ankles. Make sure you're not flaring the ribs and you keep your lumbar curve and only go as far as is comfortable. Circle the arms and hug the knees in. Don't go past 45 degrees. We inhale out, reaching wrists away from ankles at our point of control that we discovered, lowering the wrists and the ankles. We counterbalance wrists to ankles, but much more work is being done by the low abdomen as it extends the legs out from the pelvis. Inhale and exhale. One more. Reach, circle, and hug. Take your right leg overhead, left leg long in a scissor, and reach your hands up towards your ankle. And very lightly pulse both legs just an inch. Pulse, pulse, and switch. Pulse, pulse, and switch. We're learning to be aware of very small, precise motion. Pulse, 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 pulse. This awareness can help us bring harmony to the body. Pulse, 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 and stop with your right leg overhead. Flex the feet. Release your arms to your sides. Lift your arms up overhead along the floor, and you are in parsvottanasana, upside down. Switch legs, left leg overhead, right leg long down the mat. You're in an upside down parsvottanasana. Feel how your core is working to hold the legs. When we turn it over to standing, your core will be working to lengthen the spine parallel to the floor. Exhale. Feet together, bend your knees. Bring your hands down to your sides, palm facing palm over your torso. And toe dip, one foot towards the floor, and exhale it up. Inhale the second foot towards the floor. Exhale it up. Try to keep your knee at a right angle. Some of you are bending at the knee instead of opening at the hip. Keep the knee exactly as it is. And just open from the pelvis. Beautiful. If any of you want a little bit more core strengthening work to challenge your core, then ground the shoulder girdle and toe dip both feet. You don't have to go all the way. And keep the front low ribs reaching for the hip pointers to maintain strength. Inhale the toes down, exhale back up. Inhale and exhale. One more. Inhale and exhale. Float your hands one on top of the other behind your head. And exhale, reach your right elbow skyward as you lengthen the right leg and rest your head back in your hands. Pause here. Think of creating space in the spine. Now, as you lift the elbow skyward, lift the right ribs towards the left hip pointer across the torso. Don't reach the elbow for the knee. Instead, reach the elbow skyward so you maintain a long spine. Now you're using your obliques. Switch sides. Lift the left elbow, lengthen the left leg either towards the sky or at your 45-degree angle. Feel the left ribs reach for the right hip pointers. And switch, and switch, and switch. Now we're coming out into the obliques. These are muscles that help us with side bending and twisting. You can feel how you're gently twisting here. We need these muscles strong to help us into the movement and to help us put brakes on the movement to protect the spine. So we wake them up doing a little core work this morning and concentrating on recognizing them, building our awareness, dhyana, through the practice of pratyahara, turning inward. Come back to center and release one foot to the floor and then the other, and come back into your somatic walking, lifting one hip and then the other just an inch or so off the ground, and rocking the pelvis back and forth. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Relaxed shoulders, relaxed head and eyes and jaw. Okay. Feel for any heat, warmth, or awakening in your abdomen. This is third chakra work, the work of will and intention. Fluid breath. And then come to stillness. Roll over onto your right side and fold your blanket so that it can come in across your arm overhead, or it can come perpendicular to the body so that your head is comfortable. Alternately, you could put your hand underneath your head, bring your legs into a clamshell position in your top hand in front of the core, and lift your feet. And open your knees and close, and open and close. So a lot of people think our core strength is just in the abdomen, but actually it's all around the body, in the side waists, in the buttocks, even in the inner thighs. So we want to become aware of these muscles and then bring them into our standing poses. So just feel into the muscles of the buttocks here, the muscles around your femur bone as you wake up in your clamshells. And then close the legs, or let the feet come to the floor and come up onto your arm. And in your clamshell position, lift your opposite arm and lift the underside body. Some of you may stay there just working on that lift if you have shoulder issues. Some of you may be able to lift your pelvis up. Some of you may want to lengthen the legs, step over and lift in a side plank, or even step one foot on top of the other. Whichever you do is fine. Fluid breath. Feel into the side body strength you're developing. Lengthen from your feet through the top of your head. Feel for the core strength underneath the side spine, underneath the buttock. You were just working in the clamshells. And release. Lay back down on your back, coming into your constructive rest. No pillow under your head this time. And lift your pelvis skyward into a bridge. Hug your sit bones towards one another and release. And hug the sit bones towards one another and release. Hug the sit bones towards one another and hold. Reach your knees out over your toes. Lift the heart. Keep the sit bones hugging together and feel into the work of your hamstrings at the back of your leg, your glutes at your buttocks and your low back. Press your arms gently back into the floor, broad across the shoulder girdle. Your gaze should still be perpendicular to the floor. Fluid breath. Lifting yourself from the back body, we strengthen the back of the core. Feel into the work you're doing and what muscles are turning on in the backs of the legs, the buttocks, the low back, all the way along the spine, across the shoulder girdle, down the backs of the arms. Fluid, three-dimensional breath even here. And we hold the pose for a moment so we wake up to these muscles of the Annamaya Kosha, the physical body. Good morning. I see you. I feel you. Thank you for all the work you do when I'm not conscious. And exhale. Release the sacrum to the floor and roll on to your other side. Clamshell position. And open. Oh, and let's lift the feet and open and close the knees. I like resting the top hand right in front of the core of the body, shoulders aligned over each other. We wake up this set of buttocks now. Again, top hip may feel like it's doing more work. Try grounding the bottom leg and stabilizing with the bottom leg buttock. Don't let the concentration make you stiff. Oh, one more here. Close the knees and lengthen the legs. Oh, no, just lift into your side plank possibilities. You can just rainbow this arm up, lifting the underside body towards the upper side body, or you can lift into a side plank here. You can lift just onto your shins and feet, or lengthen the bottom leg, step the top leg over and lift, or you can stack your feet. I'm not stacking my feet today because of my right shoulder. Still nursing it. Fluid breath. Lift with that underside buttock. The buttocks we just woke up. Lift along the side waist, along the side spine, even the side neck. And release. Come on to your hands and knees. And come into your tabletop and inhale your cow. And exhale your cat. As you inhale your cow, stay aware of gently hugging in the pelvic floor and lengthening the musculature along the front of the spine to support the front spine. And then exhale, lift from beneath the navel, lift the spine skyward into your cat, your hissing cat. Press your hands away from your knees. Feel into the muscles underneath the spine that help you to lift it all the way through the rib cage. Breathe into the stretch. Don't overdo the effort, making yourself stiff in the pose. Try to relax into the work. Find the meeting place of concentration, gentle effort, three-dimensional breath, and awareness. And inhale into your cow, waking up pelvic floor, the length of the front of the spine. Feel for the lengthening of the side spine. And then exhale again into your cat as you're ready, pressing hands away from feet. Really find that lift of the abdominal muscles. And come back into neutral tabletop. Now I want you to curl the tailbone towards the floor. Your pelvis will start to lift, sacrum, top of sacrum towards the sky. And feel your abdominal muscles hollow into the pelvis and curl up along the spine into your hissing cat, like a wave. Release the head. And then open the wave and lengthen the spine into its neutral curves. One or two more times. Let's take the tailbone down. Hollow the abdominal core up along the spine. Curl the spine towards the sky. Feel the strength in the front of the spine. And then release into your neutral curves. One more time. Wave up the spine. Tailbone towards earth. Lift the top of the pelvis. Curl the spine into its rainbow. And come back to neutral. Float your right hand forward and your left foot back. Make sure your left elbow is not hyperextended, and lift right fingertips and left toes. Coming into balance, lengthen from the top of your head to your tailbone. Lengthen from your lifted hand to your lifted heel. And exhale. Dip and touch fingertips and toes. Inhale and lift. Exhale and lower, and inhale and lift. Fluid breath and fluid movement. Now lift up and draw elbow towards knees under your body and lengthen back out. 3 times. Exhale in and inhale out. Exhale in and inhale out, and pause. Feel how you support your spine, your pelvis, and your shoulder girdle, so that you can support the lifted limbs. And release. Take your left fingertips out, right toes back, and as you're ready, float them up and float them down. Don't lift higher than parallel. We're waking up your multifidi along the spine. If you lift into a back bend, the multifidi turn off. Keep lifting up underneath the spine to support the spine all the way up through the neck. And lift up and pause. Relax across the shoulder girdle, lengthen the neck, and exhale, elbow towards knee, and inhale, lengthen, and exhale, and inhale, and exhale, and inhale, and pause. Feel into what muscles help you maintain balance. And release. And inhale, your cow. And exhale, your cat. Walk your knees wide, big toes together, and roll your sit bones back towards your heels. Come into your child's pose. And right here, come back to the 3-dimensional breath. Inhaling, draw breath into the abdomen, into the low back. Exhaling, relax. Relax into the hug of gravity. Invite that 3-dimensional breath into the whole circumference of the torso. Concentrate on inviting breath 3-dimensionally into your tissues. Irrigate the whole body with prana. Now root your hands at least shoulder distance wide. Roll your toes under and lift into your downward dog. Go ahead and walk your dog, bending one knee and then the other, rolling over your toe box to open the feet. Feel into each finger pad on the floor active, and balance across your metacarpal arch at the top of the palm. Feel a gentle lift in the center of the palm and the arch of the wrist to protect the carpal tunnel. And then pause, still lifted into your downward dog. Bend your knees in towards your armpits. Press the hands into the floor and lengthen towards your sit bones. Then lengthen the legs and draw the femur bones back as long as you don't cat curl your lumbar spine. Keep your spine in neutral, even if that means you keep your knees bent. Long, strong spine in this pose. And then you can stay here with your three-dimensional breath or float your left leg up behind you. Stretch from hands through foot. And release the foot back down. Lift the other leg. Stay in awareness across your shoulder girdle and across your pelvis and down the length of your spine. And release and walk your dog and step your feet forward. Bend your knees, heels under sit bones, second metatarsals aligned, and inhale up, hands to the heart, Utkatasana. Root into your feet. Lengthen the spine. Come back to your three-dimensional breath. And release your arms. And inhale, reach for the sky. Interlace your fingers, thumbs to the base of the skull. Lift the base of the skull. Rest your head back into your hands. Lift the elbows. Rooting your heels. Lengthen the strong spine you've become aware of. Use your core muscles in the front, sides, and back to lengthen the whole of the spine up to where your thumbs are tractioning the base of the skull. Activate your front neck flexors and release your arms. Root into your heels and reach out through each fingertip. Feel into creating space along the spine by rooting the tail and lifting the base of the skull. And exhale, hands to your heart. And release into mountain pose. I hope you're feeling as we go through these basic and important yoga poses, how awakening the core can help you support the poses. Okay, let's try a few more standing poses and see if we can feel that work. Either bring in a block or a chair for your props. We're going to come into trikonasana and parsvokonasana and see if you can feel the core awakening work. Turn your left foot out, take your right heel back and open into star pose. Root from your pelvis into your feet and bring your right hand to your hip today. Concentrate on this left side of the spine as you lean left. From your pelvis, root into the feet, lift the pelvic floor, and lengthen even the right side of the spine as you bring your hand down, either to your own leg or to your block or your chair. Stay high, okay? So stay high to begin with, broad across your shoulder girdle, because we want to see energy running up and down the spine. If you get too low, then you crimp the energy. Feel for the energy in your body. Rooting the feet, lengthen the left side of the spine, support it like you did in side plank, and open the right arm. Maybe you can come lower and sustain that lengthening out of the pelvis, and if not, come back up. Fluid breath here. Don't just collapse onto the hand on your prop. Try to lift off it a little, lengthen out of the pelvis, strengthen the spine. But then feel, oh, have I stiffened into the effort? How can I relax myself into the pose and back into a three-dimensional breath? Awareness of turning on muscles that may help. Perhaps your outer right hip reaching towards your right heel will help the left side body. It certainly will as you exhale to float back up. So feel how this side can draw you up. And turn the left leg in and the right foot out and open into your star pose. Left hand to the hip, reach the right arm forward. Really lengthen the right side body. Draw in the core from the right side to support you as you bring your hand down to whichever prop you've chosen. Stay high to begin with, like I'm starting on fingertips on a high block, broad across the shoulder girdle. Feel into rooting your feet. Lift through the pelvic floor, lengthen all the way through the top of the head, and unfurl the upper arm. Hug the arms towards the midline of your spine. Let everything radiate out of the pelvis. Strength into the rooting legs, length into the reaching spine. Fluid breath. Check in that your knees aren't hyperextending and cutting you off from energy with the earth. These are beautiful poses that I'm seeing. And as you're ready, root that left outer buttock towards the left heel as you float back up. Use your core. Turn the right foot in, step together, mountain pose. Feel into the length of your spine. And now draw a breath up the length of your spine on the inhale. Maintain that length as you exhale, relax the outer body. Draw energy up the spine on your inhale. On your exhale, relax the outer body. And step your feet wide again. Turn the left foot out, take the right heel back, open into your star pose and release into Virabhadrasana 2. Left knee out over the left ankle. We check to make sure the knees open over the second metatarsal to keep the knee safe. And bring the left hand to the femur, right arm alongside the ear. Again, before you come lower, lift through the pelvic floor, lengthen your spine. Keep a freedom in the spine as you come low. Concentrate on keeping length in that left side body from the hip crease to the armpit. Use your side strength, but also from the right buttock down into the right heel, use your strength. Find that lift of the pelvic floor and see if it helps you lengthen the lumbar. Fluid, three-dimensional breath now. Settle into the strength needed for the pose without over-efforting. Feel what concentration can do inside the body to help us know ourselves better. And keeping the legs firm and rooted, exhale, float back up to your Vira 2. Lift the left palm, right fingertips to the back leg, dancing warrior. Grounding from the pelvis into the legs, lengthening now the right back spine to support the gentle back bend. Use your ability in the buttock and leg to ground so that you can lift and lengthen the side right back waist and neck. Exhale, float back up, straightening the front leg. Turn the left leg in and step together, mountain pose. Feel your body side to side. Breathe length up the spine. Exhale, relax the outer body. And step the legs wide again. This time turning the right leg out, taking the left heel back, opening and bending into your Vira 2. Fluid breath, bring the right hand to the femur, left arm alongside the ear. Now hug in the banks of your river a little, lift through the pelvic floor, lengthen the spine, and if you'd like to, lower the pose, but keep lengthening from the right hip crease to the right armpit, up the right side of the neck. Notice how if you hug in the banks of your river with your glutes and then root into the floor, you have more lift along the spine. Broad across the shoulder girdle, lengthen even the neck. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Now settle into your pose. Where are you over-efforting? If you are, let the concentration now bring you into releasing some of that over-efforting, finding other muscles that can help the ones that are working too hard. They could be at a diagonal across the body. And exhale, rooting the feet, rise back up, left fingertips to the back leg, right palm rises. Feel the strength of the back left side body all along the arc into your dancing warrior. Come back to your three-dimensional breath. See if you can relax the face and the eyes and the hands. Release into the pose towards the energy inside of it pulsing through you. And exhale back into your vira two, straightening the front leg and step together. Pause in your mountain pose. Inhale energy up the length of the spine, like you're a sunflower growing for the sky. Let the spine lengthen. You may feel the outer body gently hug in to help. And then relax over the length of that center channel of the spine. Fluid breath. Even the neck lengthens. Make sure you're not working so hard to lengthen the spine, you're hyperextending your knees. Relax into mountain pose, a tall mountain. Okay, let's bring a chair in, or you could bring blocks, but I recommend starting with a chair. If you don't have a chair, use a dresser, you could use a wall, you could use the back of a couch, whatever you've got in your room. Step 1 foot forward and 1 foot back, and take your rock step. We're moving towards parsvottanasana and vira 3 to find that strength along the front of the spine. From your pelvis, root down into each foot. So you took your rock step. Doesn't really matter which foot's forward. From your pelvis, root down into your feet. And inhale, length up the spine. Reach the arms skyward. But inside of the torso, lengthen the spine through the top of the head. And exhale, fold forward. Activate the pelvic floor and length along the front of the spine. Bring your hands to your chair and either press it forward, or if it doesn't move, step back and lengthen the spine. Keep supporting the spine from below. Keep supporting the spine by hugging in the banks of your river and rooting into the four corners of each foot. If you'd like to, walk your hands lower to the chair seat or to blocks that are in front of the chair. Keep lengthening out of the pelvis and make sure you're not cat curling the spine to get lower. If you are, you risk injuring your lumbar discs. We want this pose to be a hinge from the pelvis, keeping neutral curves in the spine. Fluid breath. Check in with your roots, grounding from pelvis through the feet. Active glutes. Create a container for the pelvis to stabilize it so we can reach the spine long out of the pelvis. Front abdominal muscles supporting the lengthening spine. Front neck flexor supporting the front of the neck. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. We breathe into the side waist and the back body. And as we become more aware of the 3 dimensions of the musculature around the spine, we learn how to support the spine better and to integrate the limbs. Let's exhale and walk back up our props, reaching for the sky. Hands together at the heart. Mountain pose. 3-dimensional breath. And step the next foot forward. Rock step. And then ground your feet. Remember, your heels are sit bone distance wide. We honor the width of our unique pelvis. And inhale. Lift the arms. Lengthen the spine and fold forward. Draw the front leg hip crease back. Strengthen along the front of the spine. Reaching out, lengthening the pose. We want a big enough base front to back to really support the lengthening of the spine. Don't over rely on the props. Check in that you're using your own core strength to support the spine and lengthen it. You may not be able to do all that work yourself yet, but just notice if you tend to hang on your props. I used to hang on my props a lot. And exhale. Gently walk down your props if you'd like to, only if you can hinge at the pelvis. I can go farther down on this side. Fluid breath. It's okay to have asymmetry in the body. We notice it and then we work towards balance. Fluid breath. Make sure that you don't fold so far forward that you feel kind of a real pull or almost a rip at the top of the hamstring at the sit bone. That's a classic yoga injury. It's so common, we called it yoga butt in my training. Lift out of your armpits, lengthen the spine. Three-dimensional breath. And remember, you really need this core strength as you're moving into and out of poses. So activate the core as you begin walking back up. Reach for the sky. Exhale, hands to the heart. Mountain pose. Fluid breath. Feel into the spine now and how it lifts up out of the back of the pelvis and root your heels. Root your tailbone like the third leg of a stool. And feel up your spine along the natural curves. And notice if your head is carried forward of the spine. For most of us it is. Let your eyes rest back in your sockets. Your jaw relax and see, can you rest your head back up over your spine? Shoulders broad, shoulder blades on the back will give you more of a chance to do this. Relax the shoulder girdle. And think of that hyoid bone, that horseshoe-shaped floating bone in your neck crease. Let it rest back. This will help you rest the head back. And even if the head doesn't come all the way back over the spine today, we're going to remember, even if we're in the line at the grocery store, we can practice resting the head back over the spine, which will take a lot of tension out of our lumbar spine. Okay, let's come next into Virabhadrasana 3. So you can, again, use your chair. You can try it without any props, okay? So you choose. If you want to use your chair, you'll bring your hands, or you could use a wall, to your props and step back. And then as you bring one leg under your pelvis, you'll float the other leg up. And from here, you can lift off the prop, or you can try it without your prop at all and just hinge forward, okay? So go ahead. I see Sherry hinging. Good. I see Amy reaching back long into her tabletop. And then as you're ready, float into your pose. Now, if you're using the prop, try to lighten your hands on the prop and see, can you use the core underneath the spine to help you? Balance the pelvis like a tabletop. Beautiful. Find that release of shoulders away from the neck. Relax your jaw and keep awareness along that column of the spine. Keep awareness of the banks of your river. Beautiful. And then as you're ready, exhale up out of the pose. Pause in your mountain pose, breathing length through the spine, relaxing the outer body over your inner strength. That's part of what I think of this spine as now. This inner channel of strength. And as you're ready, exhale and fold into the next side. Awaken the strength along the front of the spine and along the sides of the spine out of your pelvis. Fluid breath. Beautiful, Sherry. Fluid breath. Hug in the banks of the river. See if lifting the pelvic floor helps you support through the pelvis and along the front spine. Nice job, Essence, keeping the neck long. Beautiful. Amy Rose, you may want to spread your hands a little farther apart on your prop, just holding the outer edges so your shoulders don't get bunched. Yeah, beautiful. Fluid breath. Nice length from fingertips to heel, Sherry. I'm looking if I can see, which I can't see very well for a few of you, for a balanced pelvis, side to side, that takes strength up under the pelvic bowl. And then exhale, float back out of the pose, use your core. Good. And pause in mountain pose. Fluid breath. Can you relax into your mountain, letting the tailbone, third leg of the stool, release down so you have a lot of strength to help you hold up the spine. We have a tendency to curl our shoulders forward to protect our heart, which drops the head forward, puts a lot of pressure on the low back. See if today you can open across the wings of the collarbones and lift the heart open, resting back onto that third leg of the stool, resting your shoulders onto the back body to help you lift the heart center. And let the hyoid bone, that floating horseshoe-shaped bone in your neck crease, let it rest back towards the base of your skull in the back. Come into your fluid breath. Let yourself be like a poppy in the breeze. The stem of your spine strong enough to hold up that great flower head, but supple enough to move with the breath, to root into earth, to be surrounded by sky. Invite the sky deep into the torso on your breath. Invite life force to move through the 72,000 rivers in your body. Let the energy flow. If we concentrate too hard, we end up blocking the energy. But then we may get to a level of dhyana concentration where we relax into awareness, where we feel the body as a whole, the energy body, the wisdom body, the bliss body, the whole. And now, let's gently come to the floor. And today, let's bring in a chair, or if you'd rather, you can bring legs up the wall and bring in a bolster. And let's lift our legs up onto a piece of furniture with our pelvis lifted for our restorative. You did some really good standing pose work there, lots of core strengthening. So let's end allowing the blood and lymph to relax back down through the legs, to the pelvis, to the heart. Make sure that you're warm enough. It's supposed to get hot here in Grass Valley, California today. Hotter. And by next week, we're supposed to be in the hundreds. Oof. So I'm enjoying the fact I still have to put a blanket over myself for Shavasana. A rest into the hug of gravity. For a moment, let your mind rest on any aha moments you had in the practice today. Any thank yous you want to give to body parts you recognized that you don't often see. We live in a community in this body, a really beautiful, even miraculous community. Let's offer the members of the community thanks and gratitude. Now we want to relax these muscles to make sure we don't leave any turned on constantly, which will drain our vitality. So breathe deep into the belly, deep into the low back and sideways, and invite the muscles that we're working today to relax fully. And now see if you can feel energy flow. Perhaps first you feel it as breath or as pulses in the circulatory system or the digestive system. Then you may feel it as warmth through the muscles that you activated. Or as the gentle movement of your diaphragm. And see if this gentle awareness of your energy, this gentle concentration, dharana, can bring you closer to recognizing the unity of your being and the energy that runs through all of us. As you feel the pulsing energy, recognize the ananda, the bliss body. It's always there, flowing through us, flowing all around us, into each unfolding flower, each glistening leaf on the trees, each laughing child at the park. And let's gently begin to move fingers and toes. And listening into your body and being, feel into what stretches would feel good for you coming out of your position. Stay with yourself with curiosity, not diving into the to-do list quite yet. And as you're ready, slowly release from your props and come back to your comfortable seat. Let's rest again into our seated position where we began. Feel into your awareness now. How concentration can build our consciousness. And for a moment, concentrate on how you'd like to spend your vital energy on this day. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. Namaste. Thank you.